a Wikividi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Captain Marvel film. Captain Marvel is an upcoming American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Carol Danvers. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, it is intended to be the 21st film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film is directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, from a screenplay written by Geneva Robertson-Dwyer, and stars Brie Larson in the titular role, alongside Samuel L. Jackson, Jude Law, and Gemma Chan. A film based on Carol Danvers has been in development at Marvel Studios since as early as May 2013. A release date was first announced in October 2014, and Nicole Perlman and Meg LeFauve were hired as a writing team the next April after submitting separate takes on the character. Larson's casting was revealed at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con International. Boden and Fleck were brought on board to direct in April 2017, and Robertson-Dwyer soon took over scripting duties. Location filming began in January 2018, with principal photography set to begin that March in California, and last until May. The film is scheduled to be released in the United States on March 8, 2019, in IMAX and 3D. Development. By May 2013, a script for Ms. Marvel, the moniker Carol Danvers used in the comics before she took the mantle Captain Marvel, had been written. For Marvel Studios, producer Louis D'Esposito stated later that year that the studio was interested in a female-driven superhero film, saying that they have plenty of strong female characters from which to choose, and suggested Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Pepper Potts, or Peggy Carter as possible candidates. Kevin Feige, president of production at Marvel Studios, said that if Marvel was to make a female-led film, he would prefer it be a new character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe like Captain Marvel, who could receive an origin story. In August 2014, Feige stated that Black Panther and Captain Marvel were both characters that we like, that development work has been done on and is continuing to be done on, and that the studio is often asked about it by the public, more than Iron Man 4, more than Avengers 3. I think that's something that we have to pay attention to. In October 2014, Feige announced that Captain Marvel would be released on July 6, 2018 as part of the studio's Phase 3 slate of films, making it Marvel's first female-led film. He said the film would be based on the Carol Danvers version of the character, and that the film has been in the works almost as long as Doctor Strange or Guardians of the Galaxy before it came out, and one of the key things was figuring out what we wanted to do with it. Her adventures are very earthbound, but her powers are based in the cosmic realm. Feige added that a writer and director would be announced quite soon, and female filmmakers were being considered, though he could not promise that Marvel would hire from any one demographic. In February 2015, Marvel pushed back the release date to November 2, 2018. In early April, Feige revealed that Captain Marvel appeared in an early draft of the Avengers: Age of Ultron screenplay, but was removed as it didn't feel like the time. We didn't want to introduce her fully formed flying in a costume before you knew who she was or how she came to be. He also said that Marvel would be ready to announce writers for the film, hopefully in the next week or two, and by mid-April, Guardians of the Galaxy Go screenwriter Nicole Perlman and Inside Out Go screenwriter Meg LeFauve were announced to be writing the screenplay. The duo were put together as a writing team after impressing Feige with separate takes on the character, and began work on the film within a month. LeFauve found the character being a female superhero to be both wonderful and a challenge, particularly because of how powerful the character is, which could lead to the Superman curse. What's her vulnerability? Is what we have to figure out. By May, Marvel had discussions with Ava DuVernay about directing Captain Marvel or Black Panther, which Feige confirmed a month later, saying that he had met with DuVernay amongst a number of other directors and expected a decision to be made by mid to late 2015. That September, Feige said that the casting process would not begin until 2016, as we're scripting the film, figuring out who we want Carol Danvers to be, and really what the structure of the movie will be and what her part will be in some of our other Phase 3 films. Producer Jeremy Lacham elaborated that getting the character right first is going to lead the charge. We want to make sure we know who it is before we can start figuring out who should play it." In October 2015, Marvel changed the release date once again, moving it back to March 8, 2019. Feige stated in April 2016 that a director would be announced in the next month or two, and that the first cast members would be announced in mid-2016. He also mentioned that the film would be about Carol Danvers' journey to become Captain Marvel. The next month, indie filmmaker Emily Carmichael's name surfaced as a possible contender to direct the film, and by June, Brie Larson emerged as the frontrunner to play Captain Marvel. Larson was confirmed for the role at San Diego Comic-Con International 2016. Also, at Comic-Con, Feige said the search for a director had been narrowed down to a short list of 10, and was hoping to be able to announce the choice by the end of the summer. Perlman revealed in August that the character's origin story had been changed for the film due to similarities with Green Lanterns, with Feige expanding by saying, "I think we have a very cool and unique way of telling her story, centered on Danvers finding her limitations and vulnerabilities." He added that the character would be, by far the most powerful character in the MCU films, and would be a very important character in our universe. In October 2016, Feige admitted that the announcement for a director was taking longer than he previously expected, and explained that the studio was now waiting for a little more of the story to be set, so they could talk to potential directors about it. Once again talking about hiring a female filmmaker to direct the film, Feige said that he did not think it would be a requirement to make a great version of Captain Marvel. "But it's something we think is important, even if that female filmmaker does not know a lot about the comics, as they just have to fall in love with it once they are presented with it. It's amazing to see all of the filmmakers read through the source material and know, oh, a female's writing it now," speaking in particular to Kelly Sue DeConnick's run in the comics. Feige expected a director to be announced by the end of 2016. However, Perlman and LaFauve turned in a script treatment around December, pushing additional meetings with director candidates into early 2017. In February 2017, Perlman stated that despite her and LaFauve being hired almost a year previously, the duo had only recently gotten their marching orders for the script, stating one of the reasons for the delay was figuring out where the film would fit within the MCU. Perlman also discussed the character's femininity, feeling that it was important to make sure she is not somebody who is a hero in spite of her femininity. Being a woman is part of her strength. The writers were also considerate of tropes that could be diminishing to a female character, but not for male characters. Things you wouldn't think twice about for Iron Man, but you would think twice about for Captain Marvel. Pre-production. Marvel hired Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck to direct Captain Marvel in April 2017, after the duo impressed Marvel time and time again over numerous meetings with their vision for the character, and, because of their experience working in both television and film, Feige noted that he and Marvel were impressed with Boden and Fleck's ability to create character-driven stories in all of their works. He added, "The stories they've told have been so diverse, but regardless of the subject matter, they can dive into it and hone in on that character's journey." Ultimately, Feige felt the film needs to be about the three-dimensional, multi-layered Carol Danvers character. You have to be able to track her and follow her and relate to her at all points of the movie, regardless of how many visual effects and spaceships and bad guys are filling the frame. Filming was scheduled to begin in January 2018 at Pinewood Atlanta Studios in Fayette County, Georgia, but Feige was expecting it to not begin until February 2018. By July 2017, Samuel L. Jackson was set to appear in the film, reprising his role as Nick Fury. At the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, Feige revealed that the film would take place in the 1990s and the Skrulls would act as the film's villains, allowing elements from the Kree-Skrull War storyline to appear. By setting the film in the 1990s, Feige noted it would allow Danvers to be the singular hero, but place it within timing of the MCU. In response to this announcement, Graham McMillan of The Hollywood Reporter compared the film to Captain America, the first Avenger in the DC Extended Universe film Wonder Woman. as they were also set decades before present day. By setting the film in the 1990s, Macmillan felt it would create the question of what happened to Captain Marvel to take her off the playing field ahead of the Marvel movies that we've seen to date, and noted Danvers' story might echo the Captain America narrative, where a hero from the past disappears from the world before re-emerging. Also in July, the California Film Commission awarded a $20.7 million tax credit to the production, going towards the first $100 million spent on qualified in-state expenditures, making California the main filming location for Captain Marvel. Despacito called this very exciting, given Marvel Studios' headquarters and post-production facilities are also in the state, allowing them to streamline the production process for this film and others. Awarding of the tax credit was dependent on filming beginning within 180 days. Genevieve Robertson-Dwyer was hired by Marvel by mid-August to take over the scripting duties for Captain Marvel after LaFauve left the project to co-direct Gigantic for Disney Animation. Perlman confirmed her departure from the project as well, and said that the story she and LaFauve worked on in earlier drafts would be retained in the final screenplay. Robertson-Dwyer described the film as an action comedy, and likened her script to an initial one she wrote for Tomb Raider before that film took a more dramatic tone. She added that it was important to the entire creative team to keep the comedic elements of the film and the very funny voice of the character, since Danvers is one of the funniest comic book characters. She's so sassy, she's such a smartass, she won't take shit from anyone. Robertson-Dwyer also credited Bowden for helping to shape Danvers' voice in the film and the desire to carve our own path and make sure we weren't treading the same territory after the release of Wonder Woman, and showing all facets of what women are capable of. Feige added that Captain Marvel would have homages to our favorite 90s action films, such as the action from Terminator 2, cool street-level fights, street-level car chases, and fun stuff like that, since the 1990s action genre was one Marvel Studios had yet to explore. He also stated much of the film would take place in outer space. By October, filming was slated to begin in March 2018. Feige described the film then as a big part of heading towards the then untitled Avengers film, set for release after Captain Marvel, and concluding the story being told across the first 3 phases of the MCU. Ben Mendelsohn entered negotiations to join the film as the main villain, having previously worked with Bowden and Fleck on their film Mississippi Grind. They had him in mind for the Captain Marvel villain when they first began working on this film's story, and once they had met with him about the role, Mendelsohn quickly agreed to pursue it. By November, Jude Law was in negotiations for the role of Walter Lawson, Mar-Vell in the film. In January 2018, DeWanda Wise was cast in an undisclosed role, and Mendelsohn and Law were confirmed to have been cast. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?